Tensions between the United States and Iran have reached a fever pitch. The long-standing animosity between these two nations has been exacerbated by recent events, leading to a precarious situation that has the entire world on edge. A potential military strike against Iranian assets has cast a long shadow over the Middle East, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and fear. The mere possibility of such an action has already had significant repercussions, affecting not just the immediate region, but also global markets and international relations. Pushing the two nations closer to the brink of conflict, this situation has led to heightened military readiness on both sides. Troops are on high alert, and military assets have been strategically positioned, ready to respond at a moment's notice. The ramifications of such an action are far-reaching, with the potential to ignite a regional firestorm. The impact would not be confined to the immediate area. It could trigger a chain reaction of violence and instability across the Middle East, drawing in neighboring countries and possibly even global powers. The situation remains highly volatile, with both sides carefully calibrating their next moves. Military leaders are in constant communication, assessing the risks and potential outcomes of any action they might take. The stakes are incredibly high, and any misstep could lead to catastrophic consequences. The international community watches with bated breath, urging restraint and dialogue. Diplomatic channels are being utilized to their fullest extent, with world leaders calling for calm and a return to negotiations. The United Nations has been particularly vocal, emphasizing the need for a peaceful resolution. The specter of war hangs heavy in the air, threatening to unravel the already fragile stability of the region. The Middle East has long been a hotspot for conflict, and another war could have devastating effects on its people and infrastructure. The consequences of miscalculation are dire, and the need for diplomacy has never been greater. Every effort must be made to avoid an escalation that could lead to widespread destruction and loss of life. Diplomatic negotiations are ongoing, but the path to peace is fraught with challenges. The possibility of a wider conflict breaking out remains a serious concern. Border skirmishes and military buildups have become more frequent, adding to the tension and making the situation even more precarious. The risk of a small incident spiraling into a full-blown war is ever present. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of regional actors with their own agendas and interests. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Russia have their own stakes in the outcome, and their actions could either help to defuse the situation or exacerbate it. The intricate web of alliances and rivalries in the Middle East adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. These relationships are often fluid and can change rapidly, making it difficult to predict how events will unfold. The balance of power in the region is delicate, and any shift could have far-reaching implications. As tensions escalate, the world holds its breath, hoping for a peaceful resolution. People around the globe are watching closely, with many participating in peace demonstrations and calling for their governments to take action to prevent war. The media is providing constant updates reflecting the urgency and gravity of the situation. The coming days and weeks will be crucial in determining the trajectory of this dangerous standoff. Diplomatic efforts are intensifying, with urgent international meetings being held to find a way out of the crisis. The clock is ticking, and the pressure is mounting on all parties involved to find a solution before it's too late. The international community must remain engaged, urging both sides to step back from the brink and pursue a diplomatic solution. The hope is that through continued dialogue and negotiation, a peaceful resolution can be achieved, averting a potential catastrophe and restoring stability to the region. Within Iran, the potential strike has ignited a fierce debate about the appropriate response. The air is thick with tension as officials from various factions voice their opinions, each convinced that their approach is the right one. Hardliners within the government are clamoring for swift and decisive retaliation, arguing that weakness will be perceived as an invitation for further aggression. They believe that a strong military response is the only way to maintain Iran's dignity and deter future threats. They view the strike as an act of war that demands a forceful response to deter future attacks. For them, the show of military might is not just a strategy, but a necessity to uphold national pride and sovereignty. On the other hand, more moderate voices within the Iranian leadership are urging restraint. These moderates argue that a hasty military response could spiral out of control, leading to a devastating conflict that Iran might not be able to sustain. They caution against rash actions that could lead to a wider conflict, advocating for a more measured approach that prioritizes diplomacy and avoids further escalation. They emphasize the importance of engaging with international allies and seeking a resolution through dialogue. They argue that Iran must carefully weigh its options and avoid being drawn into a protracted conflict with the United States. The moderates believe that a strategic, well-thought-out response could yield better long-term results for Iran's stability and international standing. This internal division highlights the complexities of the Iranian decision-making process. The debate is not just about military strategy but also about the future direction of the country and its role on the global stage. The Iranian government is not a monolithic entity but rather a collection of different factions with varying perspectives on how to navigate the current crisis. Each faction brings its own historical context, ideological beliefs, and strategic priorities to the table. The debate within Iran underscores the high stakes involved in this standoff. Every decision made now could have far-reaching consequences, not just for Iran but for the entire region. The Iranian leadership is acutely aware that its response will have significant implications for the country's future, both domestically and internationally. They must consider the economic repercussions, the potential for civilian casualties, and the impact on Iran's diplomatic relations. The world watches closely as Iran grapples with these weighty decisions. International leaders, analysts, and citizens alike are keenly observing how Iran will navigate this crisis, knowing that the outcome could reshape geopolitical dynamics in the Middle East and beyond. Meanwhile, the Iranian public is also deeply invested in the outcome. Citizens are anxious knowing that the decisions made by their leaders could affect their daily lives, their safety, and their future. The pressure on the Iranian government is immense, as they must balance internal demands with external pressures. This moment is reminiscent of past crises that have tested Iran's resilience and strategic acumen. The lessons of history weigh heavily on the minds of the current leadership, reminding them of the costs of both action and inaction. As the debate rages on, one thing is clear: the path forward is fraught with challenges. The Iranian leadership must navigate a complex web of internal divisions, external threats, and historical legacies to find a solution that secures the nation's future. At the heart of this debate lies Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's ultimate decision-maker. His role is pivotal, not just because of his position, but due to the immense influence he wields over both the political and social spheres of Iran. Khamenei, known for his shrewd political instincts and cautious approach to foreign policy, is carefully assessing the situation, weighing the potential costs and benefits of various courses of action. His decisions are never made in haste. They are the result of meticulous deliberation and consultation with his closest advisors. Khamenei's decision-making process is heavily influenced by his understanding of the Iranian people's will. He has always maintained a keen sense of the public mood, recognizing that the legitimacy of his actions is deeply rooted in the support of the populace. He recognizes that any response to the potential strike must have the support of the Iranian public. This is not merely a matter of political expediency, it is a fundamental aspect of his leadership philosophy. The Supreme Leader believes that the strength of the nation lies in its unity and the collective will of its people. As such, he is carefully gauging public opinion and assessing the potential domestic ramifications of different response options. This involves not only listening to the voices of the people, but also understanding the underlying sentiments and concerns that drive their opinions. Khamenei's pragmatism is evident in his measured response to previous crises. He has consistently demonstrated an ability to navigate complex situations with a steady hand, avoiding rash decisions that could lead to greater instability. He understands that Iran's long-term interests are best served by avoiding unnecessary conflicts and pursuing a path of strategic patience. This approach has been a cornerstone of his leadership, allowing Iran to maintain its sovereignty and influence in a volatile region. This approach has allowed Iran to weather numerous storms and emerge as a major player on the regional stage. By prioritizing stability and strategic interests, Khamenei has ensured that Iran remains resilient in the face of external pressures. The Supreme Leader's decision will likely hinge on his assessment of the potential consequences of each option. He must consider not only the immediate impact but also the long-term implications for Iran's position in the region and its relationships with other nations. He will need to balance the demands of domestic audiences for a strong response with the need to avoid a wider conflict that could have devastating consequences for Iran. This delicate balancing act requires a deep understanding of both domestic and international dynamics. and Khamenei's experience and wisdom will be crucial in navigating this complex landscape. Ultimately, Khamenei's decisions are a reflection of his commitment to the well-being of the Iranian people. He views his role as a guardian of the nation's interests, striving to protect and advance Iran's position while ensuring the safety and prosperity of its citizens. His leadership is characterized by a blend of ideological conviction and practical realism, a combination that has enabled him to steer Iran through challenging times. As the nation faces yet another critical juncture, the eyes of the world are on Khamenei, waiting to see how he will guide Iran through this latest test. The future of Iran and indeed the region may well depend on the decisions made in the coming days. Khamenei's ability to gauge the people's will and respond with wisdom and foresight will be key to navigating the challenges ahead. In the wake of the potential strike, there is growing concern that Iran may accelerate its nuclear program as a protective measure. The Iranian government has long maintained that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, but the recent escalation has fueled speculation that Tehran may be reconsidering its nuclear stance. The potential for Iran to advance its nuclear capabilities adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. A nuclear-armed Iran would significantly alter the balance of power in the Middle East, raising the stakes for all actors involved. This possibility has heightened anxieties in the region and beyond. The international community has expressed deep concern over Iran's nuclear ambitions, imposing sanctions and engaging in diplomatic efforts to curb its nuclear program. However, these efforts have had limited success, and Iran has continued to develop its nuclear capabilities. The potential strike against Iran has only reinforced the belief among some in Tehran that a nuclear deterrent is necessary to guarantee the country's security. This belief is likely to drive Iran's nuclear calculations in the coming months and years.